Hey guys, how's it going? My name's the Breph, and welcome to another challenge video. Today I'm asking the question, can you beat Pokémon Emerald Kaizo without using attacking moves? Before we begin, I announced on a community post shortly ago that I have had the pleasure to have been invited to take part in a 12-man tag team mega challenge run with a group of fantastic challenge runners. It was all put together by an exceptional runner by the name of, well, stay tuned throughout the video for cheeky little hints and right until the end for some more interesting details. Now, this challenge was one that I had planned to be a Gen 5 video, but I'm gonna need a couple more weeks to get that set up and running. So instead, I decided I was gonna punish myself. So, how do I plan on making this work? Well, I've decided on a full team of 6 Pokemon, all non-legendary, mostly run-of-the-mill. By this, I mean they don't have overly impressive stats, but they don't have poor ones either. For anyone wondering, yes, I have given them illegal movesets. Why? Because this challenge is seeing whether or not we can do it with no way of dealing damage via attacking. So we're gonna need to rely on secondary effects. For further clarification, let's go to the rules. Firstly, no using any attacks. I'm defining an attack as something that causes physical or special damage that can be affected by your special attacking or physical attacking stat. The only moves I can use are ones that deal secondary damage, and you'll see what I mean when I show you the team. That is pretty much the only rule in fairness, and with that, let's jump straight into it. The game begins and we choose the male character, naming ourselves something inventive like Breph. We start off with a complete shock as we are sent into our neighbour's house. Here we see a strange looking device on the floor. It looks a bit like a poke flute, but has a couple of pokeballs and something else at the base. Taking a closer look, I'm a bit put off by this, because I don't know about you, but I've never seen a poke flute with a suction cup at the bottom of it. Desperately trying to shake that one off, we head north and encounter the Professor, opening his bag and choosing Torchic to defeat the Zigzagoon. I need to have a starter in the party in order for the editing program to work, so this doesn't count as failure. Leaving the lab with our Torchic, we load up the software, get rid of it, and replace it with this, our masterclass of a team. A Skarmory named Truman, a Mantine called Khrushchev, a Gengar Churchill, an Alakazam Thatcher, Nixon our Diglett, and a slacking Gorbachev. Of course there is a naming scheme and a reason behind these choices. The first person to comment with the scheme and reason gets a shout out in the next one. Their movesets? Skarmory has been given Double Team, Confuse Ray, Will-O-Wisp and Leech Seed, and will for the most part be our go-to mon. Mantine has Spikes, Toxic, Sand Attack and Attract. It'll hopefully function usefully during double battles. Gengar has probably the cheesiest moveset of the bunch, Curse, Recover, Double Team and Sleep Powder, and will hopefully come in clutch as a last ditch move. Alakazam has Light Screen, Barrier, Hypnosis and Nightmare. It's really only here as filler for the team to set up Light Screen and hopefully do something at some point. Diglett has a unique purpose, knowing Pain Split, Scary Face, Spite and Destiny Bond. I chose it for its base 10 HP and relatively high speed stat. It'll stay fragile but fast, perfect for sacrificing with Destiny Bond. And slacking knows Skill Swap, Agility, Cosmic Power and Toxic. Need I say more about that? Cheese Fest 2020 is here to stay, and now, let's have some fun. The first major fight is against May, and she only has a Mudkip. The strategy here is one that will get repeated throughout the game as long as we're not against a Grass or Fire type. I lead off with Will-O-Wisp, getting the burn and cutting the attack power of the Pokemon against us. Leech Seed next to regain our own health and each turn chipping away at the health of the opponent. Confuse Ray to do what Confuse Ray does best, and Double Team to basically just kill time. That is almost 90% of this run in truth, just killing time. With that, the game is open to us and we head off in search of a next challenge. On the bridge before Rustboro, we're challenged by Red. I set up the burn, seed and confusion as per usual, but this time switching to Khrushchev to also land attract and spikes on the team. When Pikachu comes out, I get to work showing Gorbachev how it will function, hitting skill swap and toxic before setting up cosmic power. For anyone who doesn't know, that move raises both physical and special defense by a single stage. Nixon deals with Bulbasaur thanks to Destiny Bond, showing his usefulness, and I'll be honest, that's really all I need to say. Those are the strats for the run. So the first badge is up and it's Roxanne, and in truth I can't really say much about her team. Nosepass gets hit a good few times thanks to confusion, allowing us to also get the burn off. I switch into Churchill as Nosepass goes for explosion, proving yet again that I am the superior strategist and Kaizo cannot defeat me. The curse and recover strat proves to be just as effective as it should be, and hypnosis shows how unreliable it is. Well, I need to add a little extra challenge somewhere now, didn't I? To finish her off, Slacking is a totally useful creature, and Nixon comes in to see the fight out as toxic damage proves too much for Shuckle. That's one badge down, and the journey is only going to get harder. And that is evidenced by Brawly when we come to face him. He introduces us to one of the biggest pains of this run, the dreaded Lumberry. Luckily there are 3 status afflictions that we possess to bypass this: Leech Seed, Curse and Attract. Now that won't help us long term, but it's a start. Thankfully for us, Truman is able to sweep aside the second gym leader's whole team, proving just how valuable status afflictions can be. Heading into the cave, we're confronted by the worst of the worst ice puzzles that still took me longer than I would have liked. Eventually that leads out to Stephen, where we deliver a letter and make a beeline for the Slateport Museum, where we encounter Archie. He tells us all that we should subscribe to the Mega Collab Fire Red Challenge runners, and that all 11 other members' channel links are in the description below this video, before running away and leaving us to face the unrelenting challenge that is May once again. I don't know what it is about this fight, even in the base games it always seemed to trip me up. I don't know if it's because of the strange hiking level or the fact that I'm a pleb. Comment the hashtag BrefsAPleb down below and let the world know the truth. Despite my plebtitude, and yes I did just make that up on the spot, our team of pacifists overcome her, paving the way to Watson. Now, we lost Truman a lot earlier than I would have liked, but the shock thing about this was just how well another member stepped up to the plate. I knew Gorbachev was gonna be a beast, but he basically took down Watson's entire overpowered team. It's at this point that I'm severely questioning what I've done. I knew going into this that no attacking moves introduced a new dynamic to the game, and I figured that somewhat average-ish Pokemon and illegal movesets would be a counter to the general difficulty of Kaizo as a ROM hack. Don't get me wrong, I knew it was going to be a laugh and a little bit of fun somewhere, but I'm genuinely questioning the ease of the run so far. This is just as evident as ever when we trek up the volcano to tackle Maxie. Yes, I turned off recording during grinds and non-major moments to avoid a clog of footage. Yes, I forgot to hit record when I fought Red, but he wasn't actually that difficult. What did prove slightly more difficult is the situation I found myself in at the end of the Maxie encounter. I have to have a HM slave in the party to even get to this fight, and while it doesn't actually see any action, it is the reason for this fight being a success, and I say that in loose terms. If we had kept our original member in the team instead of it, the result would have been the same because we lost 5 Pokemon at the cost of his entire team. That is my justification, because at least I'll be damned if I'm doing this fight again. Moving on out of the controversy quicker than I get myself to the bar and a pub, but we move on towards Flannery, and oh my goodness did she cause me a headache. She was the first proper grind I encountered. No matter what I did, and I tried a lot, I couldn't seem to get through her team no matter what I did. While up until this point I've been somewhat matching each major battle level for level, for this one I needed to go above and beyond that point. With my entire team except for Nixon being in the mid to high 40s, with Nixon being the exception for the Destiny Bond reason obviously, I was finally able to defeat her, but let me tell you, it was both an absolute annoyance, time kill, and at the same time an absolute relief. Finally, a challenge for my edited movesets and team. However, I'd be lying if I said that challenge continued on, because the double battle gym leader Norman is next. Our father, who art in YouTube, Christian Pokemon champion be thy name, did not pose us much of a threat at all, as I'm sure he would have liked to. In fact, it was actually his Espeon using skill swap on his slacking that was my motivation for Gorbachev's moves. The fight itself is as fun to sit through as one of Gray's save files, and with the 5th badge down, we can carve a path straight through towards the Weather Institute and the fight with May beyond that. Her team is very impressive, there's no doubt about that. Unfortunately for her, impressive doesn't mean useful. A bit like a shiny Metapod. The red colouring is nice and all, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's still just a measly Metapod. And just like a Metapod, or a Kakuna, or a Silcoon, or a Cascoon, or anything of the sort, she was just plainly simple to defeat. And that means that Winona is next, and again I needed mass grinding. I don't know what about her team was so difficult, whether it was the 3 legendary birds, the ridiculous Flygon, or the fact that I'm a total and utter pillock, but the grind itself was painful. It took enough time for me to be able to finish a complete episode of The Witcher on Netflix for the 4th time, and also listen to the entirety of the Phil Collins album No Jacket Required twice. At a higher level than even I would have liked to have been at, but not as high as it could have been. The 6th badge is under our belt, and we enter a stretch of the game that I despise, and a grind that was both over the top and completely mind-numbing. I think this is a part of the game that all Kaizo players hate the most. It's the slog around the map, starting first with the ridiculous Magma Hideout. Here we watch as Maxie intentionally releases Groudon, because of course he does, before challenging us to a battle. Said grind pays off, barely. I lead off with our attractive Mantine Khrushchev to use his powers on Tyranitar. I get super lucky on this attempt and it's locked in for good. After that though, it pretty much involves the age-old strats with each Pokemon. Slacking turns out to be the absolute tank of the team, and those cosmic powers come in absolutely clutch in conjunction with Slack Off, which it learnt via level up. Then we're off to Slateport to watch as Archie reduces himself to the level of a common criminal, hijacking a submarine and taking off in the direction of Lilycove. We also head out in that direction, but that's boring as shit, so let's talk about Moss Deep City's Tate and Liza instead. Leading off the double battle with both the Latties, this duo proved to be a fairly difficult time. In terms of strategy in battle, it hasn't changed at all, and nor can it. Destiny Bond takes out Latias without an issue, and from there, Truman was around to double team it out of the park and constantly set up Confuse Rays, Will-O-Wisps where needed, and Leech Seeds. All in all, when everything was done, the damage racking up takes down the final Pokemon Jirachi, and that's 7 badges down. At this point I was tired, groggy and pissed off. Although I took a lot more time to record this than the last Kaizo video, I still had to put in the hours, and that meant many a late night. I told myself at this point that I would defeat Archie before sleeping, and although it was already 3 AM and I was actually in a pretty good place to stop, I decided that I was going to make my way down to the seafloor cavern to fend him off. In a similar way to the last fight, Destiny Bond takes out Raikou as Truman does his thing and consistently sets up the Leech Seeds. The other Pokemon, well, they do their bits too, and I'm really surprised by how simple this has proved to be as a challenge. Long, repetitive in motion, and simple. A lot like me. With that completed, he does the sensible thing of accidentally sparking a period of uncertainty as two mythical beasts hurl insults at each other, meaning the only logical conclusion is to send a kid deep into a cave to speak to a madman alone at the bottom before he decides to send us up to climb a tower and awaken his lizard. I don't see anything wrong with that. With Rayquaza awakened and the world promptly saved, we head into the Satopolis gym. And I turned off recording while battling all the gym trainers and completely forgot to switch it on for Wallace. Oops. However, I did need to grind a lot, and I did remember, somehow at least, to switch it on for the numerous fights with one of which was this attempt. The issue with double battles for me is that my mind gets all confused about which mon I've put a status affliction on, which Lumberry needs using still, etc. One took me a mental amount of time for this exact reason. Eventually I do get the system down and start ploughing through. For anyone who thought level 91 on Gorbachev was overkill, he was our only surviving mon. And if it wasn't for luck on this run, then the upped stats wouldn't have done anything and we wouldn't have made it this far to claim the 8th and final gym badge. That means the end of the game is just within reach now, and with all 8 badges in our possession, I stupidly turn off the recording to go and eat lunch and forget to turn it back on. Heck, I even beat Sydney once before checking to see that the recording was off. Screw this, I allow myself to be knocked out, turn on record, and go back in the league to do it all again. Sydney leads off with Sableye, and my goodness, it proved to be the calm before the storm. If anyone wants to explain to me how the Dark type user can get away with having a powerful fighting type like Machamp in his team, I'd love to know. Even with that, I prove yet again that level 100 Pokemon are just as vulnerable to the status afflictions that I have in my arsenal. Phoebe is the second, and to be fair to her, she actually has a decent number of Ghost-type Pokemon. Her Gengar leads off with Ice Beam, but thanks to Diglett having decent speed, we get a Destiny Bond away and take it out. Despite having some other powerful Pokemon and a Ludicolo, Gorbachev does what Gorbachev does best, winning the war of attrition and paving the way to Glacier. Anyone who's played Kaizo before may be having some serious flashbacks right about now. Maybe the sweats and shakes are commencing at the thought of doing this fight with something like, oh I don't know, a Beautifly? Even though she has a freaking Regice, Destiny Bond does what it was made to do, proving that Diglett can be a powerful ally if it's given a moveset that it can't legitimately obtain. In truth, I think I'm succeeding at demonstrating how overpowered some of these move combinations actually are. Drake is the 4th member, and he's a perfect demonstration of why facing the Latties one-on-one is much less threatening than doing it as a double battle. Starting off with the much too repeatable Destiny Bond idea, can you see why I've chose Diglett for this? The sacrificial lamb that it's become reminds me of a certain Smeargle I once heard about. Ah, the good old days. I like the fact that Drake only has one non-dragon type member on his team, but the good news is that they don't stop slacking from being a complete and utter tank. With Drake defeated, the one and only fight left for this challenge is the ridiculous champion, Steven Stone. Stevie Boy leads off with a Metagross, and I with Truman. Getting a Leech Seed up was risky, but he didn't attack me so much as get the agility on. Futile really, as we tank his Meteor Mash's somewhat will to begin cheesing with Double Team. Eventually, out of desperation, it just explodes and does nothing in damage because it wouldn't now, would it? Mewtwo comes out, and thanks to our Double Teams, we avoid the initial Flamethrower, setting up our second Cheese Seed of the match. After a metric crap ton of waiting around, and I repeat, crap ton. Sorry, not sorry if the language offends any snowflakes out there, but it's necessary because it's me. Mewtwo drops and things are looking good from my point of view. Those things begin to look even better as at the end of the day even Aerodactyl can't get rid of the keen-eyed, steel-nerved Truman before resigning itself to its fate. But all good things must eventually come to an end, and our one-man sweep is ended as Deoxys lands a hard-hitting fire punch. Not deterred even in the slightest, I bring in Nixon, and I'm not even going to say it. Comment down below if you think you know the name of the strategy I used against it. Only Starmie and Jirachi remain, and when the star comes out I know I've got this down. Toxic damage lands and begins racking up as I intermittently use Slack Off and Cosmic Power in tandem, of course after I use Skill Swap to make our life just that little bit easier. Jirachi comes out as the final Pokemon, and after a couple of completely plebbish decisions, I eventually bring Churchill out, lay down the curse, and sit back, relax, and sip on my martini because we have beaten Emerald Kaizo, the hardest ROM hack I've ever come across, without using a single direct attacking move. With that, Truman Skarmory, Khrushchev Mantine, Nixon Diglett, Thatcher Alakazam, Churchill Gengar, and Gorbachev Slacking have entered the Hall of Fame. And for all the right reasons if you ask me. At the start of this challenge I asked a simple enough question, that being, can you beat Pokémon Emerald Kaizo without using attacking moves? The answer is yes. Granted I hacked the movesets on, but the point of this was to show you that you can in fact beat the game without ever throwing a single attacking move into the fray. This challenge went from being a potential full-scale war to a full-scale Kaizo Cold War. We won the war of attrition without ever throwing a punch. I can't stress it enough, hacked or not, we beat this game without actually hitting anything. But while I let that sink in and before we finish, I've got some more information for you. That mega collab? It's coming really soon. As in tomorrow soon, barring any technical difficulties. Having been put together by the amazing Christian Pokemon Champion, we can confirm that it will be going live on Zwigo's channel. So please go and subscribe if you haven't already to make sure you can be there to see it. It was certainly eventful and a lot of fun. Yes, it'll be a long one, but it will certainly be worth the watch time, I can assure you. And if you sub to all of the challenge runners whose links are in the description below, I can promise you they won't be wasting your time with that sub either. With that bombshell delivered, please like and subscribe for more content like this, and comment down below any challenges you might like to see me take on in the future. For the first time I can't actually say what I'll be doing next time, as rightly I don't know yet. Keep an eye on my community posts for an update in the next couple of days, but whatever it turns out to be, I look forward to seeing you all in the next one.